in with China. They are warming up with China. China managed to broker peace between or rapprochement between Saudi Arabia and Iran. So amid this deepening situation in the Middle East, US feels that perhaps it will have to deepen its relations with major players in the Middle East. And obviously, the entire readout mentions India, the IMEC corridor.
Yes.
And mind you, the IMEC corridor has two key players. These are India and UAE, because the corridor starts from India and the first stoppage is at UAE. So even if the escalation continues in the Middle East, India has also hinted very clearly that it is very willing to develop the first leg of the corridor, which extends till UAE.
All right, let's leave it there. Thanks much for filling us with those details. Shifting focus now to the first debate on India Global, which is from Bangladesh. Well, since 5th of August, when Sheikh Hasina was ousted from Bangladesh and she's been seeking asylum and has been taking refuge in India, the first bilateral between New Delhi and Dhaka took place at the sidelines of the UNGA. Extremely important when External Affairs Minister Dr. Jaishankar met his Bangladeshi counterpart in New York. Remember, India, Bangladesh have a very deep strategic and economic relationship, social engagement as well, and that was being tested, is still being tested, given the fact that Muhammad Yunus's interim government does have a lot of support from extreme hardline elements as well. So what does this mean for the New Delhi-Dhaka relationship at a time when the army chief has also thrown his weight completely behind Muhammad Yunus? Remember, there's clamor that Yunus is unconstitutionally elected. His government doesn't have any legitimacy. The fact that he has the army's backing indicates that is it moving a step away from democracy? How does that add up in terms of New Delhi's equation with Dhaka is the first debate on India Global. Okay, let's open this up. Muqtadir Rashid and Tara Kartha with me on the broadcast. In fact, Mr. Rashid, let me start with you. This is a very important beginning of a bilateral engagement that has started between India and the current Bangladeshi political dispensation. How do you read it?
Honestly speaking, this is a very good move from both the sides, like Bangladesh and India. So that these are the trusted partner for years, for decades. So I obviously said I appreciate this move when Mr. Jaishankar and Touhid Hossain met at the sidelines of UNGA. So we need Bangladesh and India need more consultation from the security aspect to the people-to-people contacts in terms of widen their geopolitical engagement. So unless you talk, unless you get engaged, it would be India for Indian strategic partnership. It would be big blunder. Many strategic analysts they said that it would be a big blunder for the India. On the other hand,
right? Yeah, finish your point. Finish your point.
On the other hand. Unless you talk, unless you have the issue on the discussion, then it would be, nobody can address the problem. Look, the minority attacks on minority, Bangladesh government is struggling to solve the crisis.
That's a very important point you made, which is that unless discussions happen, then how can bilateral relations improve? So to that effect, the fact that discussions have started, the fact that there is now bilateral engagement happening is a very important step towards normalcy. Dr. Kartha, how do you read that? And then I come back and ask you specifically about the army chief. Where does it mean as far as the democracy and the democratic framework of Bangladesh is concerned? Are we still some time away from that? But I'm going to talk about that in just a bit. But first up, the fact that bilateral engagement has started indicates steps towards normalcy in relationship.
Yes, I would totally second what the earlier speaker said. You have to talk to each other. Bangladesh is your neighbor. It's not going anywhere. And, well, any relationship has its ups and downs, right? For that matter, consider the US relationship with Mexico. Oh my God, it's a terrible state of affairs. So you have a far, far better relationship with Bangladesh. You've got excellent trade relations. And in fact, what I remark is within 2 days of the crisis, trade resumed. You see, because there are hundreds of people on both sides who are dependent on this trade. And both sides know it. So one can expect a certain amount of posturing from some elements within the government, within the caretaker government, which is expected given the circumstances. You have to get past that. And as well as a mature countries on both sides, I think this meeting lays the groundwork. Plus, the ambassador also met the BNP leaders. So we are moving in the right direction.
Are some
And
of
I think
India's concerns being addressed, do you think? The fact that relationship is warming, inching towards normalcy, do you think, Dr. Tara, that some of the concerns that New Delhi had about extreme elements being mainstreamed electorally, being mainstreamed within the government, are some of those concerns, do you think, now being addressed?
it's going to take a while because, well, let's say Mohammed Yunus, while being on the right path and having the right background, doesn't really have the clout to take on anybody right now. I mean, he himself is, while he commands a huge amount of respect within the country,
But doesn't
he
have enough political capital. That's the point.
exactly.
Okay, so let me ask this then to Mr. Rashid as well, which is that while discussions have started, this is indicative of warming up of ties. What about some of the fundamental issues in which New Delhi has raised concerns, or those remain legitimate areas of India's concerns? One is the fact that there are extreme elements that are being mainstream. Secondly, the fact that the army chief is backing Mohammed Yunus's interim government gives a sense in New Delhi that the march towards democracy is just getting longer and could probably take much longer than what many envisaged.
First of all, I must say that I don't know what do you mean by the extreme element. When you don't have no democratic norms or practices on the ground, you definitely have extreme element. It happened in Afghanistan, it happened in Pakistan, and many other countries.
I don't think people in Bangladesh want to compare themselves to Afghanistan and Pakistan.
Yeah,
I don't think so.
So
We don't need those comparisons.
Of course. But that's what I'm saying.
You're faring better than them.
Yeah, of course. When you don't have the democratic practices, and it didn't have, we didn't have the election for many years. So the people's aspiration is for the democratic values are high. So in comparison to that, the army was so popular, among the students, among the people. Why it is so? Because the police and the ruling party were killing the people, killing the student, the passerby, kids. So the army didn't intervene. They only held the student and create a buffer zone from the killing, from the attacks of the police and other element. I would say they're this extremist element. You can't imagine. You can't see how police.
Okay, so you are saying there are no extreme elements right now within the government. Okay.
I don't believe that there are any extremist element in a government.
Dr. Karta, do you buy that? And by that, do you think India buys some of this logic that is being given?
No, I'm afraid not. I mean, I think the point that you made, Gaurie, is very valid. I don't think they should. You're a democratic. I mean, Bangladesh is a country with a history of democracy, so you can't really compare yourself with others. Number two is that the fact that you're seeing very contrived violence. Much of this violence is contrived. There's a lot of disinformation around. There's a lot of deliberate targeting of India. I mean, this is an effort to sour India-Bangladesh relations. And some of the history of those elements, we know that they wanted India-Bangladesh relations out. And also, of course, the people from outside. I mean, I wouldn't not absolve certain countries also from interfering. But I think Bangladesh has to accept that these elements are there and you have to deal with them. I think the army is also aware of it, though they had a meeting with some of them. But nonetheless, one important aspect, Gaurie, since you asked, is also the army chief also said that they will want elections within a year and a half. That's the outside limit he's put. So far as we see, the army is a stabilizing element. So I think it works. He's clearly wants elections down the line, and so does everybody else, except I don't know how the electoral reforms are going to take place. It's not possible under constitutionally.
So he wants constitutional reform, judicial reform, electoral reforms, everything in the matter of 18 months being his outer limit when elections must take place. I think it's just about pushing the the issue so far ahead that, we discuss it at another time. But, before we move ahead, let's listen into what the Bangladesh Foreign Advisor had to say specifically about the attacks on minorities, Bangladeshi Hindus there. Let's listen into that. We come back and talk more on that.
Any violence that has taken place, some violence has taken place, let us say it correctly. Any violence that has taken place is being shown as violence against Hindus. This is not correct. I think the Indian media needs to come out of this hyping of this issue. We are doing everything possible for the protection of our citizens, and these Hindus in Bangladesh are our citizens. We are taking care of them.
Okay. Quickly, I'm running out of time, but this is a question I throw up to both of you. In fact, Mr. Rashid, let me start with you. There are some teething concerns in this relationship. Trade is being resumed, the hillside issue is also being addressed, but fundamentally security concerns are being inadequately addressed. That's what New Delhi feels. How do you think that can be bridged, that trust deficit?
Honestly, you don't know that we never think that Hindu is our, we don't separated Hindu from our nationality, that we don't identify Hindu as another citizen or other citizen of the country. We do believe that we are the same, we have the equal footing, we have the every equal rights everywhere. But when you only talk about that, especially when Delhi only focus on the religious issue, then it disturbed the Bangladeshi people, because when the people, and 1,000 people were killed, and in Delhi didn't mention, even Jaishankar in the parliament didn't mention, when at the time more than 600 people were killed, and Jaishankar didn't mention it in the parliament. So it happened only when only Hindu are killed. So it's very.
No, I don't think anybody is saying only Hindus are killed. I don't think anybody said that. But I guess it is about targeted killings. That is what the point was. It was about targeted killings. What happened? The student protests were a different matter. In the aftermath of the overthrowing of the government, the targeted killings became a very important question. I'm afraid I'm completely out of time. I wish I could give Dr. Tarak Artha as well a chance to respond. Mr. Rashid, I have a feeling I'm going to come back to you in another couple of days and let you respond to that, because this is a developing story. But on that note, I have to slip into a very short break. I want to come back and talk on the other side with, well, what all are New Delhi's options as far as the peace brokering initiatives it's taking, whether it's in Ukraine or Middle East, what all can we do realistically, and how much of that can actually translate into action. We come back and talk more. Stay with us.
Mindful Chef. Food to help you feel great. Try Mindful Chef now with 25% off your first 4 boxes. Healthy eating made easy at mindfulchef.com.
Do you need to borrow money? Then you've come to the right place. Everyday Loans. Representative APR 99.9%. Apply now at everydayloans.co.uk.
Bingo lovers, it's time for a close encounter with Bingo Aliens. Visit bingoaliens.com/bingo for a cosmic range of bingo games. 75-ball bingo, even 90-ball bingo. All from a galaxy far away, direct to you. Taking bingo to another dimension at bingoaliens.com/bingo.
We know that living with diabetes can make daily life a challenge, and we're here to help.
I felt very low with the diagnosis and very lonely as well, and embarrassed.
I think people don't necessarily realise the impact that being diabetic can have on you, and the amount of extra decisions you have to make a day through carb counting every single thing you eat.
Day-to-day living with diabetes is really difficult. So Diabetes UK has made my life easier every day.
If you're struggling with the everyday challenges diabetes can bring, maybe it's time to become a Diabetes UK member. Call 0800 035 7601 or go online to become a member. And for just £3 a month, you'll get a welcome pack and a practical guide tailored to your type of diabetes, and a copy of Balance magazine 4 times a year.
Balance magazine has been very good in giving me tips to manage my diabetes on a day-to-day basis.
Plus regular email updates with the latest diabetes news and special discounts.
One of the things I was recommended to do was exercise. What motivated me was my love of dance, and I got that back.
Join a community that really understands. Call 0800 035 7601 or go online to become a member for just £3 a month.
I would recommend Diabetes UK to anyone with diabetes. Join up, become part of a community, get that support that you need.
You could save money on your energy, broadband and mobile bills and feel more protected when you switch to a better deal. Switch and save now at uswitch.com.
Glasses Direct. Get yourself a great big deal on your new glasses. Right now, at Glasses Direct, get 2 pairs from £15. That includes your lenses and free returns. No quibbles. Oh, now we've got your attention. It's easy to see why we're trusted by over 3 million UK customers. For a really big deal on your glasses, you should go direct to glassesdirect.co.uk.
Welcome back. You're watching India Global on NDTV World. The second key debate that we're having today is around the peace efforts that India has been making at the UNGA and whether it is leading to creation of a conducive environment, whether you talk about the Ukraine-Russia issue or whether it is the crisis in Middle East. What all can India do, and are those overtures leading to a conducive environment? Ambassador Jaishankar, former Foreign Secretary, Brahmachalani, Strategic Affairs expert with me on the broadcast. And that's a question I ask both of you, gentlemen. Ambassador Jaishankar, let me start with you, sir. As things stand right now, there have been several key meetings that have taken place on the sidelines. India has been fairly clear that it wants to play some sort of a role in terms of peace initiative, at least create that right environment to get people on the discussion table. How do you read some of these meetings and the posturing?
What I feel is that India considers itself as one of the countries acceptable to USA, Ukraine and Russia on this Ukraine-Russia war. And therefore, India cannot pull itself out of this situation. At the same time, I don't think India is trying to get itself into proposing any kind of solution to the trouble, because what India wants is peace. India wants diplomatic dialogue. Now, what we are finding is that, yes, there seems to be some willingness on the part of all these countries to set up certain kind of red lines beyond which they may not be able to go. But I think there's still a big gap among all these red lines, and therefore India can only try to do as much as possible given the sensitivities of the situation.
Mr. Chilani, you want to comment there, sir, in terms of some of these meetings that have been taking place, back channel talks, and the message that India is trying to send?
Both in Ukraine war as well as in the conflicts in the Middle East, only dialogue and diplomacy can bring an end to the fighting. Unfortunately, the timing of any peace overture, any peace initiative at this moment is not conducive to success. We saw that from Modi's visit to Kyiv. When he went to Kyiv, the Ukrainian side emphasized things which were at divergence from any peace initiative that India could actually move forward. The Ukrainian side sought Indian participation in the next Ukraine-sponsored peace summit. Now, there was a peace summit sponsored by Ukraine in Switzerland, and now Ukraine wants India to participate in the next so-called peace summit. In fact, the template that Zelensky insisted upon for a peace plan is his own 10-point peace formula. And this 10-point peace formula is not a peace plan, but a plan for an indefinite war. One would have expected that after Modi's visits to Moscow and to Kyiv, that the US president, that Modi met with Joe Biden at Wilmington, Delaware, securing the support of the US is crucial for any Indian peace initiative to end the war, or at least to broker a ceasefire in the Ukraine war. And we don't know whether this subject came up in the Biden-Modi meeting, and if it did, did Biden encourage Modi to pursue his peace initiative? As far as the Middle East is concerned, again, the timing is bad because Israel has now escalated matters by launching air assaults on southern Lebanon. Its strategy is to escalate in order to de-escalate later. In other words, de-escalation through escalation. Now, the problem with that strategy is that it carries risks of a wider war, bringing in potentially Iran into the picture.
Indeed. And I think that one question that has been asked repeatedly now is, can India entrusted with probably ensuring that the two parties could come on the discussion table, at least pass on messages from the other side, because it has some sort of a confidence from both sides. Can it ensure that the two warring sides come on the discussion table, or is that still some time away, given how fluid the situation is? Ambassador Shashank?
Well, if you're referring to the Ukraine-Russia conflict,
yes,
we have seen the meeting which took place in Switzerland, and perhaps Mr. Zelensky wants a repeat of that in New Delhi. I don't think India would be interested in holding a peace summit for the sake of having a summit where Russia would not participate. What India is interested in having real peace, because it's having a bad impact on the whole of global South. And therefore, India has been conveying that sentiment to the Russian side, to the Ukrainians. And Ukrainians are not really free players in this game. There are people behind them who say that, all right, we are considering very actively giving you long-range missiles so that you can negotiate from a position of strength. Now, when you are trying to find a position of strength which you don't have, now it may lead to all kinds of imponderables. You know, so there might be the feeling on the other side, the Russians might feel that the NATO has got involved directly, and therefore they should not take the action against the NATO countries.
Right. Mr. Chilani, quickly, sir, what all can India really expect out of some of these overtures it's making?
It makes sense for India to pursue a peace effort in the Ukraine war, because the Ukraine war directly impinges on Indian interests. The war is bringing Russia and China closer together. And if this war becomes a long war, then a Sino-Russian axis could be formalized. Now that would be America's ultimate geopolitical nightmare, but it will also affect Indian interests, because the last thing India wants is for Russia to be on China's side. Given those realities and given the risks, it makes sense for Modi to try and broker a ceasefire in the Ukraine war. So despite the setbacks that India has suffered thus far in its peace effort, I think it'll be wise for Modi to continue making that effort, because as Ambassador Shashank said, there are very few leaders or countries in the world that can broker a ceasefire in the Ukraine war, and Modi is probably the only leader in the world that is able to reach out to all sides, including to the US president.
Indeed, indeed, absolutely. Thank you so much, gentlemen. I'm completely out of time. Ambassador Shashank, Mr. Pramod Chilani, for your perspective on this story. Remains to be seen how soon can some of these efforts actually fructify. But that is a wrap on this edition of India Global. Thanks for watching.
It's great to be helping out before my first grandchild arrives. And after having a few repairs myself, I need to make sure they'll all be protected. Which reminds me.
Welcome to British Seniors, the UK's #1 rated provider of over 50s life insurance.
Hi, I'd like a quick quote.
No problem. We're proud to offer our seniors lifetime guarantee. With 100% of claims having been paid, we guarantee